Hello and welcome to day 3 of Western Civilizations. Our focus today is going to be the Byzantine Empire, the empire that rose in the ashes of the Roman Empire's collapse. There are a few notable locations and people I want to expose you to today. The notable locations are going to be the city of Constantinople, which once Constantinople was overtaken by the Ottoman Turks, it is renamed and still to this day known as Istanbul. The Bosphorus Strait, I'll show you a map and let you know where that is, but essentially what we're doing is we're looking at this narrow stretch of water that separates the Mediterranean and additional seas from the Black Sea. And the notable person that we're going to talk about today is going to be Emperor Justinian of the Byzantine Empire. So let's talk about the emergence of the Byzantine Empire. Now, we talked about yesterday that Diocletian, in his infinite wisdom, split the Roman Empire into two halves. And essentially, after Constantine, he was able to reunify those halves. But as history tells us, the Roman Empire eventually did collapse, and the eastern portion, where the money, wealth, and power was relocated to, was able to kind of fend for itself for about a millennia after the Western Roman Empire collapsed. Now, the Byzantine Empire gets its name from a small market and fishing town called Byzantium. And it's great as a city because it has a natural harbor. It has the control of the Bosphorus, as you can see on this, in between the Aegean, which connects to the Mediterranean, and the Black Sea as well. And also, it is a geographic gem in the sense that it gives access into Anatolia, which is modern-day Turkey, southwestern Asia, which would be your modern states of Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Syria, Jordan, so on and so forth. And then also it has a natural pathway into Europe as well. So it's really kind of at the crossroads economically of a lot of very, very wealthy and affluent regions in this part of the world. So if we take a look here, these are the successor states that happened after the fall of the western version of the Roman Empire. Anything in green here is the Byzantine Empire, and as we can see, the Byzantine Empire, we'll talk about here just a little bit, was able to recapture a portion of the historic Roman Empire. However, any attempts to go further on into Western Europe, into former Roman territory, was unfruitful. And these Germanic tribes were able to withhold any advancement by Byzantine forces. Now, yesterday we talked a little bit about Emperor Constantine, and when he relocated the capital of the Roman Empire from Rome to Constantinople, the city went through a huge facelift. He wanted that city to be very, very much a city of decadence for a lot of people in this region. And he wanted this to be the capital city in every sense of the way. So one of the things that Constantine did is he renamed the capital after himself, Constantinople, which literally means the city of Constantine. And the whole city went through a huge beautification movement. This image here, and I'll show you an image in just a heartbeat, is one of the most beautiful churches that ever have existed in human history, called Hagia Sophia, and it's the Church of Holy Wisdom, and inside it's gorgeous, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. And the city is going to keep this name until about 1453, when Constantinople is overtaken by Ottoman Turks, who changed the name to Istanbul. Now, if we take a look, we talked about the geographic location of Constantinople. And you can see here is the eventual sea that will empty into the Aegean and subsequent Mediterranean, and the Bosphorus, which separates Asia from Europe and connects this region to the Black Sea. And so Constantinople juts out into this waterway that surrounds it, and it's a great peninsula. Harbors, you can see here, all right, to bring in ships, great for trade, but also it has a defensive component to it that you can easily seal off the edges of Constantinople. So after Constantinople kind of gets to the point where it has a lot of outsiders that attack it, it eventually is going to withhold itself because of its defensive positions. Now, the most notable Byzantine Empire was that of Justinian. And Justinian had this nickname. He was called the Sleepless Emperor. He had some major contributions to the Byzantine Empire. As we referenced a little bit ago, he built Hagia Sophia, which is the Church of Holy Wisdom. He implemented the Justinian Code, which updated a lot of outdated Roman law from previous centuries and so on and so forth. And he attempted to reacquire lost areas that were taken by Germanic tribes after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. As promised, take a look. Here's Hagia Sophia and the Church of the Holy Wisdom. This was one of the most beautiful buildings that was created at the time. And once it was taken over by Ottoman Turks, these minarets were added as well to the architecture. So take those out of the picture, and this is the church. Now inside, it was an architectural marvel. You can see that you have a lot of free room inside here that they were able to build because of the architecture used in the arch and distribute some of the weight throughout the building. So at its time, a technological, architectural world wonder. Now, like all good things, they must come to an end. So the fall of Constantinople is inevitable, and it was about 1100 CE that this process started to happen. Now, eventually, like every other great civilization, the decay is going to happen internally. It's going to weaken its very tenets and its foundation, where it's going to leave it susceptible for outside invasion. Now, Byzantium was attacked on all sides of the empire. We're going to focus here first from what came from the west, and then we're going to look at how it was attacked on the east. So from the west, these Germanic tribes, as they started to become a little more consistent and grouped together, they were able to unify their forces and become a pretty formidable force. So the first group of people that we're going to talk about are the Norman adventurers. These are the descendants of the Vikings, and they started in northern France, over by Normandy, and if you're familiar with history, where Allied forces landed during World War II, and they're going to move eastward and eventually expel Byzantine forces in Italy. After Rome fell, there was a little bit of Byzantine presence left on the peninsula. These guys, they take care of business. Now, we'll talk about this later in this class, but during the 12th and 13th centuries, the Western European people mounted a movement to recapture Jerusalem from the Muslims. While they're doing this, they also take the opportunity to plunder the Byzantine Empire in the process. And for a while, they conquer the city, and they take a lot of great and wonderful artifacts and take them back to their relative locations. And from the east, we have a Turkish people that were gaining power, and these are the Seljuks, and they had the most success really against the Byzantine Empire. So they arrived in the scene at kind of a great time for them. It was in the wake of economic and military problems, and the Seljuks are able to defeat the Byzantine forces in battle, and subsequently what happened is the Byzantine forces turn on each other and eventually engage in a very brutal civil war. And we know from civil wars that it just depletes the overall unified force and leaves it open and susceptible to outside invasion. So we can see here that the Seljuks have their origins in Central Asia, and as they kind of move through the Middle East, they move through Anatolia, and eventually they're going to have some tension right with the Byzantine Empire itself. And so as you can see by looking at this map, that the yellow is going to be their initial movement, and over time they're going to move well into Europe. And that concludes our discussion on the Byzantine Empire. Tomorrow, what we're going to look at is Charles the Great, otherwise known as Charlemagne, and look at his contributions to modern, or what will become modern Europe. He is a great and notable figure in history for unifying a lot of these Germanic tribes. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.